you know, you get your first mini bike, and you know, you get the feel for two wheels and a throttle. And you know, my brothers had bikes, and so I was able to go out with them. And you know, it wasn't really probably till the time I was maybe 12, 13 years old. I guess it was like 68, 69, post-Vietnam era. These guys are coming back, and I started seeing these really crazy long front-ended, you know, bikes, and I didn't know a lot about them. I started building bicycles that looked like them, you know, extending the front ends and, you know, lowering the seats, tall sissy bars. And 60s, I guess, that's pretty much my favorite time for customs, cars, bikes, whatever. The inspiration for this is probably one of my first bicycles, you know, the Stingray, and, you know, big ape hangers and drop the seat real low. But I really never saw it too much on a motorcycle, so I figured I'd try something different. And it's 1949 panhead motor, FL motor. It's completely gone through, but you know, pretty much stock stroke, obviously, early Springer, 16, 21 setup. I tend to like that. You know, the last bike I did, I ran an 18, but on this particular bike, I thought a 16 would be, you know, more suitable, especially with the width of the suspension on the sissy bar setup. I guess in the late 60s, maybe early 70s, you know, the Schwinn's came out, and it was probably one of the first things that had a sissy bar with springs in it. It was actually an internal spring covered up, but I thought that'd be pretty cool to be able to do a bike with a, you know, with the rear suspension on this seat. And I didn't really know if it was going to work or how it was going to work, but as I put it together, it came together, and it works pretty good. It has just enough to take the bite out of a good pothole. I've gone ahead and kept the pogo up in the front, so it's got, you know, front and rear suspension, you know, whatnot. So with the 16 versus a 18 or 19 in the rear, the bike's wide at the tail, down low. That was another reason to put the pipes up in here tight, because it keeps the bike narrow, but yet, you know, hides the void a little bit. So back in the day, I guess, some guys were using old bicycle stems. You know, so I got some old Schwinn goosenecks off old Stingrays and put it in there, and figured a way out to utilize one of Caleb Crow Customs, his riser or his top clamp setups, and kind of gives it a cool look. A little bit different, you know what I mean? So the tank, you know, when this thing's done, you know, after Born Free, I plan on riding this thing all the time. And you know, one of the number one things with Bondo is, you know, or old Bondo at least, is a lot of times it cracks. So I wanted as much of it to be metal finished as possible. So my buddy Scotty, T-Bone over at Noise, just went at this tank and did it all metal finished. I'm not a real fabricator when it comes to that type of finesse and work, but he just killed it for me, you know. So all of this will basically just get cleaned up, and very, very minimal molding, so it should hold together pretty well. Just like the neck up through here, the way it fits in form all the way around, it was all, it's all done with metal, so it'll just clean up the welds with the Bondo, and gets painted, should hold together. It's an old Watson color. He did some Corvettes with it. It's a pale yellow Murano pearl. To me, it has a real early 60s look to it, and then it'll get some little highlights with kind of a caramely feel, like, you know, basically I think it's going to look like pearlescent butter and burnt butter. So I still have a couple things to do, but it's pretty much ready to tear all apart and get it to the painter, so, which is Harpoon. Seems like an okay fit for an old big guy.